She texted me from the spa. We just finished morning meditation, headed to the waterfall now. No phones allowed after this. I stared at that message for a second too long. It was the emoji, the water drop. She never used that one, not with me. 3 minutes later, I got the video. Not from her. From someone who owed me, a friend in the AV department who'd once gone through his own quiet divorce. He knew the look in my eyes when I asked for help. Didn't ask questions, just sent me the clip. The preview image alone was enough. The two of them on a lounger. His hand resting on her lower back. Her head tilted back in a laugh I hadn't heard in months. That fake one, the one she used with people who could do something for her. I tapped play. There wasn't sound, just the crisp splash of a nearby pool and distant talking, too faint to matter. She was in a robe, his maybe or the resort's. He leaned in and said something that made her grin like she was 17 again. Then she slid into his lap like it was normal. Like no one was watching. Like no one back home was waiting for a message that wasn't a lie. I paused it. Stared at the screen. Pressed play again. Paused. Back 10 seconds. Watched again. It wasn't just what they were doing. It was how at ease she was, like she'd done this before, like this wasn't new. I stared at the edge of the lounger in the corner of the frame. My mind fixated on this stupid detail, a towel with our initials, monogrammed from our anniversary trip. She packed it without thinking. Brought it there. Used it there. I didn't shout, I didn't cry. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, poured water. My hand didn't shake, not even a little. That part scared me the most. I went back to the phone, tapped the arrow icon and typed in one email. HR ad. No caption, no explanation, no second thought. I pressed send. Then I set the phone down face down on the counter and sat in the dark. Didn't turn on the TV, didn't play music. Just counted my breaths, 1, 2. Made it to 37 before I stopped. Didn't know why I stopped, just felt like enough. I thought about the last conversation I had with Julian, my boss. He told me he respected my work ethic, that he saw a lot of potential in me. He shook my hand the day before she left. Said to take good care of her. She laughed when he said that. Tucked her arm under his like it meant nothing. I remember wondering what was funny. Now I know. I stood up, paced twice around the room, and opened the back door. The air hit me like it was January, but it was late spring. Cold anyway. I didn't grab a jacket. I looked up at the sky. No stars, just haze. That felt right. The porch light flickered. I'd meant to replace the bulb. She reminded me twice before she left. Now I didn't care. Inside, the phone buzzed. A new message. I didn't check it. Because once you send the video, once you press send and you can't unsend, there's a silence that comes with that. And it's louder than anything she or he could say. I let it ring. I let everything ring. And I let that silence stretch into something useful. Tomorrow I'd figure out the rest. But tonight I just sat with it. With the truth. With the cold. With the quiet. Waiting to see who would speak first. She was passing out plant-based trail mix and lecturing someone about seed oils when I first saw her. Her sunglasses were massive, like bug-eye big, and she wore them like she was in on a joke nobody else got. Said something about alignment and grounding with intention, and somehow made it sound less like a pitch and more like a dare. I was holding a clipboard and checking off shift schedules. She wasn't even on my list. Just showed up, she said, popping a dried apricot into her mouth. You looked like you needed help. I didn't, but I didn't say that. We weren't alike. I kept spreadsheets for weekend groceries. She had 5 yoga apps and forgot passwords like it was her full-time job. She said I made her feel stable. I said she made the room louder in a way that didn't bother me. 3 months later, we were at a bar where she ordered something mezcal-based and asked if I believed in twin flames. I didn't answer. She took that as yes. Our friends used to say we were the couple people came to for advice. They didn't see the parts in between. The way she'd leave post-its on my laptop, breathe, drink water, make space. The way she moved through our condo barefoot, dragging her fingers along the walls like she was memorizing them. Like she never meant to stay long. We bought that place together. Small, clean, with a view of downtown if you squinted hard enough. She insisted on the cream couch. I wanted something darker, less chance of stains. She said, "We're not planning for messes. That's sad." I let her win. She started following my boss 6 months into my promotion. I remember her asking questions like, "What's his leadership style? And do you think he reads fiction or biographies?" I asked why it mattered. She said she just liked understanding who had influence in my world. Called it admiration. He sent a signed copy of a business book to our house once. She opened it, kept it on the nightstand longer than mine. At a holiday party, she laughed too hard at one of his jokes, something about a broken vending machine in the break room. I remember thinking she's just friendly, that's who she is. But it wasn't how she laughed with me. It was newer, sharper, a laugh you save for someone you're trying to pull closer. Still, I didn't press. He was married, she was mine. That's what I told myself. Every time she complimented him, his presence, his vision, his clarity, I took it as flattery by association. If she admired him and I worked for him, maybe that meant she saw something in me too. The way she'd touch my arm when talking about team meetings. The way she offered to help review my presentation before the all-hands. I thought it was support, partnership. Now I wonder if it was scouting. There was a night we sat on our balcony with chamomile tea, and she said, "I love that you're calm. Most men want to win, you want to understand." I remember liking that line so much I wrote it down. It's still in a note on my phone. Funny how words age. What once felt like intimacy now sounds like foreshadowing. Back then I believed in us. I believed in shared playlists and joint checking accounts, and in the way she'd lean her head on my shoulder during movies, even when the couch was big enough not to. I didn't think to check who else she was leaning toward. But there were signs. Small things I filed away as quirks. The way she'd pause when I asked where she'd been. The way her answers got shorter, but her explanations got longer. Like she was racing ahead of something I hadn't asked yet. I told myself love changes, that we were evolving. Now I wonder if I was just the last one holding on while she let go quietly, in stages. And if I missed that, what else did I see? She changed her perfume. It used to be soft, lavender, maybe vanilla, something I associated with Sunday mornings and clean sheets. Then one day it was sharper, citrus and something metallic, the kind of smell that lives in hotel hallways and doesn't apologize for it. I noticed it when she hugged me before heading out. Said she was meeting up with her new book club. No books ever came home. She started blocking off whole days on the shared calendar, just labeled them reset or solo time. I asked what that meant. She said, "It means I'm trying to grow without being watched." I stopped asking. There was this morning, early spring, I was in the kitchen making coffee. She walked past with her yoga mat, hair still damp. Her phone buzzed. She smiled before she even picked it up. I said, "Who's that?" She looked up like I'd asked something disgusting. "Wow," she said, "you're really spiraling, huh?" She didn't answer the question, just turned and left. The door clicked harder than usual. I heard her car pull out with more acceleration than it needed. Later that night, she slid into bed beside me like nothing happened. Started scrolling, laughing at her screen. I turned off the lamp. She kept scrolling. 2 days later, she mentioned therapy. Not for us, she said. For you, you seem unsettled. I nodded. Booked the appointment. The therapist had this thing where he'd pause right before asking the hard question. He leaned forward, arms on his knees, and said, "Do you trust your instincts?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. I didn't lie, but I didn't answer either. It got quieter in the house after that. Not peaceful, just quieter. Like two people living next to each other instead of with. She said she was signing up for a company-sponsored wellness retreat. 4 nights, all expenses covered. No phones, it's part of the detox, she said, tossing her charger in the drawer. I'll write you a postcard or something. She laughed like that was charming. I helped her pack. She insisted on bringing her silk robe. Said it made her feel rested. She added her favorite mug. Said it helped with intentional mornings. I stared at the suitcase. The way everything was folded, with more care than she gave anything we owned together. After she left, I went into the office to print something. Her laptop was still open. The screen had gone dark, but the calendar was up. I tapped the spacebar. The brightness hit like a flashlight in a cave. No mention of a corporate retreat. No HR block on the company calendar. Just one entry. Sedona, arrival 3 p.m., dinner W. Julian. Julian. My boss. Her favorite leader. The man she once said had CEO energy. I stared at the name like it would change if I blinked enough. It didn't. The mug she packed, the one with the chipped handle I glued back twice, was still on the kitchen counter. She had taken mine by mistake. It said, "Be here now." I ran my finger over the rim. It was still warm. I didn't confront her. Didn't call. Didn't drive out there or blow up her phone. I just sat down in the living room, phone in one hand, mug in the other, and asked myself a question I hadn't said out loud in months. If she's lying now, how long has she been lying? And if I already know the answer, what exactly am I waiting for? I didn't snoop. That's what I kept telling myself. It wasn't like I went through her phone or followed her car. I just listened, paid attention. The first crack came from a Slack message. One of my coworkers, drunk, maybe, or just stupid, replied to an old thread late at night. Hope your wife enjoys the view from Julian's balcony. It disappeared 10 minutes later. Deleted. But not fast enough. I didn't say anything at work, didn't reply. I just closed my laptop and stared at the wall. The next morning I went to it, quietly. Told them I was running a compliance sweep, that I needed access to archival footage for some security concern related to the Sedona offsite. The guy on the AV team owed me. I'd covered for him once years ago, never made a thing of it. He sent me 2 links. Just watch fast, he said. These clips don't stay up long. The first video was poolside. Camera facing the resort's edge, blue sky, orange rocks, wide umbrellas flapping in the wind. She walked in with Julian. No one else. No group, no staff. She wore her robe. White tied loose. He had sunglasses on, shirt open, one hand carrying a wine bottle. They looked like they'd done this before. Like they weren't hiding. Like they forgot the camera was even there. She sat first, crossed her legs, then reached for his glass like it was already hers. He leaned back and said something. She laughed, that same laugh, breathy, wide, and not for me. I muted the sound. Didn't need it. I jumped to the second clip. Evening. Different camera. Facing a hallway. She slipped out of her room barefoot, hoodie on mine. The one I'd worn when we first moved into the condo. She said it made her feel safe. Said it smelled like calm. She tapped on his door like it was hers. He opened it in boxers. Pulled her inside with one hand on her wrist. The door clicked shut. I stared at that frame, the last one before the screen froze for a long time. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Just stared. I checked the timestamps. Back to back 2 nights. Not accidents, not bad timing. A pattern. I didn't feel anger. I didn't scream. It felt quieter than that. Like standing in a house that already burned down and realizing the match was lit weeks ago. You just didn't smell the smoke. I closed the laptop. Sat on the floor. It was the hoodie that wrecked me. I'd asked about it 2 months ago. She said she lost it. Blamed it on goodwill. Said maybe she accidentally gave it away. I believed her. I always believed her. I made tea I didn't drink. Let the kettle cool on its own. That night I didn't sleep. I just lay there in the dark with both hands folded over my chest, like I was trying to keep something inside. The next morning, I watched the clips again. This time I didn't pause. Didn't flinch. Just observed. Her mouth moved the same way it did when she used to tell me, "You're overthinking." Her hand brushed his knee like it was part of her body now. Her laugh hit before he even finished talking, like she was waiting to react. It wasn't spontaneous. It was practiced. There's something strange about watching someone you love act in a life that doesn't include you. Like watching a movie you thought you starred in, and realizing halfway through you were just in the credits. I sat in my office and stared at the inbox. Opened a draft email. Typed in one address, HR at. But I didn't send it. Not yet. I needed more than footage. I needed time. To think. To be sure. To stay calm. Because once I moved there, be no walking it back. She came home 2 days later. Tossed her bags in the hallway like always. Gave me a kiss on the cheek and said, "You wouldn't believe how clear my mind feels." I nodded. Asked how the retreat went. She said it was transformative. Used that word again. Said she journaled every morning and cried during the sound bath. That she'd reconnected with her core self. I asked if it was a big group. She paused. "Yeah," she said, "about 12 people." 12. I nodded again. She made tea. Poured mine first. Said she missed our routine. I said me too. She went to unpack. The hoodie was missing. I waited. Waited for her to notice it was gone. Waited for her to ask if I'd seen it. She never did. I watched her walk through the house like it was all still hers. Touching furniture, humming lightly, setting her phone on the charger. She didn't know what I knew. Not yet. But she would. And I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to break things or demand an apology. I was going to be quiet. Precise. Because when truth arrives calm, it cuts deeper. She came home and hugged me like she always had. Right arm first, light pressure, a second too long. Felt rehearsed. She smelled like eucalyptus and linen, not the lavender she used to wear. Said it was a new retreat blend. I just nodded. Over dinner, she talked about a meditation leader named Harper and some cold plunge that changed her nervous system. She said, "It made me realize how reactive I've been lately. I want to slow down." I didn't ask what part of the cold water helped her sleep with my boss. Just passed her the salt. That night, she pulled my hand under the blanket. I let her. She kissed me soft and familiar, but her rhythm was different. More confident. Less checking in. Like she knew the steps by heart, just not with me. When she fell asleep, I stayed awake. Watched her breathe. Timed it. 12 seconds in, 12 out. I opened my notes app and wrote 2 words. Start exit. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Didn't tell her that. Told her I was going for a walk. We'd drawn up a prenup before the wedding. Basic stuff. She said it was just a formality. What it didn't cover was crypto. I'd bought in early, quietly. She thought the portfolio was just for fun. It was. The lawyer said, if this goes to court, she'll have questions. I said she won't see it coming. I spent that afternoon moving assets. Nothing shady, just untangling. Split the joint account into separate buckets. Left her share untouched. She'd always said, what's mine is yours. So I gave her what was hers. No more, no less. I went through shared folders, emails, cloud backups. Anything with my name attached got copied, backed up, moved offline. I didn't delete. Just vanished from the system. She noticed 2 days later. Asked why our budgeting app needed a new login. I said I was testing 2-factor security. She shrugged. Said makes sense. She didn't ask again. I booked a session with our couples counselor. Alone. Sat on the same couch. We used to share and told her everything. The footage, the messages, the lie. She blinked slowly and said, how do you want this to end? I said on my terms. The next morning, I sent the video. From a fresh email address. No signature. Just the clip attached. Subject line, leadership breach urgent. HR takes those words seriously. 10 minutes later, I got the auto reply. This matter has been escalated to the appropriate department. I closed the laptop. Unplugged it. Walked into the kitchen and made eggs. She came down in leggings and a sports bra. Said, I'm doing the virtual sound bath this morning. Can you keep it quiet? I said sure. Watched her stretch against the counter while the toast popped up. She caught me staring and smiled. You good? Yeah, I said, really good. She walked away barefoot. Her anklet, the one I bought in Catalina, tapped against the floor like a metronome. That night I made dinner. Set the table with the good plates. Poured her wine. She looked up halfway through the meal and said, you feel different, like you're really present again. I said, maybe I am. She raised her glass. To new energy. I raised mine. To truth. We clinked. She didn't flinch. When she went to shower, I checked the timestamp. HR had already forwarded the footage to legal. Julian was off the calendar for the next week. Administrative leave, they'd call it. No one would say why. But everyone would wonder. I sat on the couch and watched the steam curl out from under the bathroom door. The soft hum of her playlist leaked through, Tibetan bowls and rainfall. She always said sound was medicine. I figured silence could be too. The next morning I left early. Told her I had a team offsite. She waved from the doorway in one of my sweatshirts. I drove to my lawyer's office. Signed 3 documents. Dropped off the hard drive. No ceremony. When I came home, she was on the phone. Her voice was tight. I heard the words professional boundaries, and I don't know what they're talking about. She ended the call fast. I set my keys down. She looked up, eyes wide. Did you know about this HR thing? What HR thing? She squinted. Someone submitted something about Julian, about Sedona. I waited a beat, then said, "Weird." She nodded slowly, then turned back to the stove. The soup she was stirring never stopped bubbling. She didn't bring it up again that night, or the next, but the energy shifted. She flinched when my phone buzzed, double-checked her screen before leaving the room, started locking the bathroom door when she showered. Little things, unspoken. One night she said, "I feel like you're hiding something." I said, "Maybe we both are." She didn't reply. I cleaned the kitchen, washed the wine glasses, turned off the lights. The house creaked in the quiet, beams settling, doors breathing. It used to feel like home. Now it felt like the waiting room before the truth arrived. And she was starting to hear the footsteps. The email came at 8:42 a.m. Subject: formal inquiry, HR investigation. No greeting, no details, just a request to discuss a matter pertaining to recent behavioral concerns at the Sedona retreat. I stared at it for a full minute before closing the tab. She was still upstairs, humming to herself as she got dressed. She didn't know yet. I went into work like it was any other Monday. Nodded at reception, picked up my coffee, logged into my computer and waited. By 10:17, I was in the conference room. Just me and two HR reps. One had a notepad. The other had a printed copy of our internal ethics policy. They started by saying this was confidential. I nodded. They said they'd received video evidence of inappropriate conduct involving a senior manager. I nodded again. Then one leaned forward, lowered her voice and asked, "Were you aware of any personal relationship between Julian and your spouse?" I let the question hang in the air. Finally I said, "Not officially." She scribbled something down. The other one asked if I'd like to transfer teams. I said yes. She asked why. I said the work culture feels complicated. By the end of the day, I had a new manager, a quiet office on another floor, and a bonus check to support the transition. When I got home, she was in the kitchen, chopping cilantro, the same cutting board we'd bought after our engagement. She looked up and said, "I'm making your favorite tonight. Thought you could use it." I thanked her, asked if she'd heard from work. She tensed. "Something weird's happening. Julian's on leave. HR's acting paranoid." She paused, turned to me. "You didn't say anything, did you?" I looked at her. "Calm. About what?" She blinked twice. "No idea," she said. Then she went back to chopping. I transferred half our liquid assets the next morning. Used the routing numbers I set up 3 years ago when I opened the contingency account. It had no name, no alerts, just quiet protection. Her portion remained untouched. Every penny. I wasn't after revenge. Just distance. Clean, paper-thin space between her chaos and my future. I updated my will next. Removed her as beneficiary. Added my sister. I called it routine estate planning. She never asked why I was printing so much. At night, I started taking walks alone. No headphones, just keys and silence. One evening, I stopped outside a bakery. Watched a couple laugh over spilled coffee. He wiped her sleeve. She didn't flinch. I used to have that. When I got home, she was waiting on the couch. The lights were dimmed. She looked nervous. Or maybe just tired. "Something going on," she said. "People are whispering, Julian not answering me." I sat down. She shifted closer. "I need to ask," she said. "Did you send something in? Did you record anything?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "No, I didn't record anything." That was true. She searched my face like she was trying to find the version of me she remembered. But I was long gone. She said they're saying he broke policy, that it was on company time. I said, if that's true, that's on him. She swallowed hard. I could lose everything. I stood up. Then maybe you should have protected it. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't throw anything. I just went upstairs and locked the door. She didn't follow. The next day, HR looped back in. Julian's leave was extended, pending further legal review. His access was suspended. His direct reports were reassigned. Slack threads disappeared. He emailed me that night. Said there was a misunderstanding. That he hoped I could separate work from personal noise. I archived it without replying. She watched me scroll. Didn't say a word. We slept in the same bed. Backs turned. Breath synchronized out of habit, not love. The condo was silent, but something between us had started to scream. Not loud, not obvious. Just this low, constant hum. She started asking strange questions. Do you think people change? Do you think you ever really know someone? I answered like I always had. Careful. Measured. Truth trimmed of its edge. Then she said it. Out of nowhere. Sitting on the balcony, looking out at nothing. You used to need me more. I looked over. No, I said. I used to believe you. She turned away. Wiped her eye. Said the wind made it water. I didn't argue. Because by then, the move was done. The files were gone. The accounts divided. The house set to be listed once she left for her yoga retreat next month. She didn't know yet. But she'd find the envelope. With everything spelled out in ink. My terms, my exit, my clean hands. And when she did, there'd be no yelling. No begging. Just the sound of a door closing and a space she used to fill echoing back at her. That was always the plan. Not to destroy her. Just to show her how easy it was. To live without her. The text started 3 days after Julian disappeared from the org chart. First it was just, hey, can we talk? Then, I feel like something's off. Are we okay? I didn't answer. She sent a voice note next. 39 seconds. Her voice was too bright, too careful. She said, I miss us. I know things have felt weird, but I want to work through it. I still believe in you, in us. She didn't mention Julian. Didn't mention HR. Didn't mention the fact that her life was quietly collapsing. I left the message unopened. The next day she called. Twice. No voicemail. Then came the shift. Her tone cracked. You're being cruel, she wrote. You're not even trying. I just stared at the bubble on my screen until it faded to gray. She emailed me the morning after. Subject, need to clear the air. Body. We've both made mistakes, but silence doesn't help. I still want a life with you. Please meet me halfway. I archived it. I wasn't angry. That was the strange part. I didn't feel satisfaction or vindication or power. I just felt done. She called me cold in the last message. Said I had become someone else. I read it during lunch. Chewed slowly. Swiped it away. That night I got a message from Julian. Unlisted number. Just said, we both lost something. That wasn't the plan. I blocked it. No response, no fireworks, no scene. That's what scared them, I think. That I didn't lash out. That I didn't yell or post or leak or destroy. I just disappeared. The silence did more damage than noise ever could. She tried once more. Knocked on my office door at home. I made tea, she said, voice small. Want some? I looked up. No, thank you. That was it. No shouting, no guilt. Just a boundary drawn in the quiet. She didn't knock again after that. The energy in the condo shifted. She stopped playing music in the mornings. Stopped leaving her socks in the hallway. Started texting in the bathroom with the door closed. Stopped telling me when she was leaving or where she was going. We moved like ghosts. She left a week later to stay at her sister. Said she needed space to think. I didn't argue. Didn't help her pack. Didn't ask when she'd be back. When the door shut behind her, I just sat at the table. Folded the napkin she left crumpled by the sink. Wiped the counter clean. The next day, I changed the locks. Legally, quietly. Sent her a polite email. For clarity and closure, please direct all communication through my attorney moving forward. She never replied. That was the last time she reached out. No big final fight. No apology that made anything better. Just silence, stretching wide between us like a road we'd both chosen not to walk. The hardest part, how easy it became to not speak. Like we were never really talking in the first place. And somewhere in that quiet, I started to breathe again. People ask if I ever got closure. I tell them I stopped looking for it. Closure makes it sound like there's a neat bow somewhere, like someone signs off on your pain and stamps it resolved. But real endings don't work like that. They're quieter, messier, slower to show up and faster to vanish. Sometimes I still catch the scent of that sharp perfume she wore during the retreat. It'll hit me in an elevator or in a crowd. And for a split second, I forget what year it is. I freeze. Then I breathe again. That's the thing nobody tells you. The hardest part isn't the betrayal. It's what you do with the memories that used to feel safe. She once told me I was the calmest man she ever met. She meant it as a compliment. Maybe it was. Maybe it's what let me walk away without burning the whole thing down. There were nights when I wanted to. Wanted to scream, to expose, to ruin her the way she cracked something in me without blinking. But I didn't. Because silence lasts longer than shouting. Because walking away with everything in order was the one thing she never expected. The real revenge. It wasn't the video. Wasn't the HR report. Wasn't the account moves or the property paperwork. It was knowing I could look at myself in the mirror afterward and not flinch. I didn't lie. I didn't stoop. I didn't lose myself just to prove a point. She lost more than I ever could have taken from her. And me. I lost the version of myself who kept trying to explain away red flags. The man who believed love could fix anything if you just worked hard enough. He's gone. And I don't miss him. Now I keep things simple. I move slow. I listen harder. And when I feel something's off, I don't wait for proof. I leave the room. I close the tab. I change the locks before I get asked to. There's peace in that. Not joy, not relief. Just peace. And most days that's enough. Because the last thing she ever said to me was, I hope you'll remember the good parts. And I do. I just don't miss them. This is Revenge with Camden. If you've ever been betrayed by the person you trusted most, hit subscribe. You're not alone.